I found somewhat of a hack for a lot of people might know who Gary Vaynerchuk is, Gary V, and he's been accused, if that's the appropriate word, of being one of the proponents of hustle culture. And I say accused because when people say that he pushes hustle culture on people, they're looking at that as a bad thing and saying that, burnout, which is real, but that can happen, and that, people like him and Hormozi, both sides of that coin, the couple, Alex Hormozi and Layla Hormozi, they talk about how this hustle is a bad thing, and how he talks about doing too much, basically. But Gary V seems to be winning. He, from what I can tell, he has, what he claims is that he owns one of the largest and most successful marketing agencies in the world. They bring in something like 300 to 400 million a year in revenue, not and he makes it a point, not valuation, because things can be valued at a certain number, but they're not actually bringing that in revenue. And even though he does have some other things that he sells, but he's a marketer. Why shouldn't he sell things? Even though he has a marketing agency and he does marketing for other businesses, he has his own, basically he characterizes his V friends as a cross between Marvel Comics and Pokemon. And he, he's in kinds of all kinds of things. He bought some, I forget which sneaker brand it's in. He's done videos. I've been watching him since before he was doing arbitrage by going to garage sales, buying things at a low price and then selling them higher, collectibles and things like that. And he seems to be pretty on point with a lot of stuff. And I generally like his personality. He comes off really well. I have my parasocial relationship with Gary Vaynerchuk is all right. Now, there's some things I don't really dig. For example, I don't like Uber very much at all, because they have, first of all, I've been mistreated by them. Their AI has unfairly done some things which I'm not going to get into. And I've seen multiple cases of that happening with other people. I've been to meetings with Uber at events in Miami, and have spoken to people behind the scenes. I worked I was an Uber crew member and got to see certain things. So he's invested in that, and Facebook, and there's controversy with that. But hey, I'm sure when you're operating at that level, I don't know what kinds of things people get into, and who they're, when he first started investing, were the companies the way they are now? Were they as big as they are now? Were they making as much money as they are now? Did they have the same CEOs, COOs, CTOs, CFOs, on and on, right? So I don't know. I'm not getting into all of that stuff. What I'm talking about is that there are things that he recommends, and that I found one way to hack into doing something that he talks about often. And one of his most recent videos, I just started looking at it, and because I'd seen this number before, but this one is from 5 days ago. It's called "The Secret Is," or the internet changed and most people missed it. And one of the thumbnails was the secret is volume. And when I first started listening to that, and he's talking about volume as in filling a space, not sound volume, although they operate in a similar way, because sound volume, when you turn it up, it sends more pressure waves it fills more of the space. It amplifies that. So they're similar, but we're talking about, when he's talking about volume, he's talking about the amount. So basically he's talking about quantity in this case. And he's not necessarily talking really about a vector yet that I've heard, meaning a certain direction of it, although I'm sure that there is. I just haven't really looked into it. But I've seen the numbers on a thumbnail before, and it was like, he talks about how he puts out like 412 pieces of content a day, if I'm not mistaken, and under various different handles, you know, Gary V this, that, right? So Gary V garage sales or whatever, right? So many different things that he does. And I started touching on this the other day. At first I was going to attempt to do it in a more hands-on way, where I was going to be doing a lot of manual posting, where I'm not sure if it was on one person enterprise or if it was on my Hakeem Alexander or one of my podcast handles. I have several podcast handles. So in one way, I am deploying some of his tactics strategically, is that I've long had various different handles. Like, for one, I have various different websites. The first one was called Hypnoathletics. That went online in 2006, so it's 20 years old now. Exercising Your Mind went online in 2007, so almost 20 years old. It's 19 years old. I have KappaGuerra.com. I have GuruGrandmaster.com. I have hypnoathletics.org.net and .info. I have Blog Dealer. I have onepersonenterprise.com. I have what else is going on here? Oh, HAKEYM.com for HAKEYM news. I have worldreadingclub.com. I don't know how I could leave that one out. So worldreadingclub.com, UniquilibriuM.com, and UniquilibriuM is actually the handle that's on most of my social media. And there are a few others, acrimonium.com, and hypnoathletics.com is actually in 3 subdomains. One is EYM.hypnoathletics.com, and the EYM is the initials for Exercising Your Mind, which is, as I said earlier, is the second website that went online in 2007. Then I also have poems.hypnoathletics.com, which is pointed to from acrimonium.com. Acrimonium being, you know, a big death metal band that I was in South Florida. And I got the name because it was up for grabs. And it just holds a special place in my heart, the opportunity that I had to be a vocalist for that band. And just the experiences I had with them, even though it was short-lived, just, you know, about a year or two. And so I have swordpaper.com. So I could go on and on, right? I have these various different handles. And then I have various different corresponding podcasts on Spreaker. So I have website handles, podcast handles, and then Uniquilibrium is most of all of my social media handles is the same. So that's the one unifying factor of all of them that ties them all together. And then I have several YouTube channels. One is called MC Narcissist. One is my name, my full name again, Hakeem Ali Bocas Alexander. Another one, I just changed it to World Reading Club. I do have KappaGuerra as a YouTube channel. And so now 2 things that are happening really well. Well, actually, the foundation that's helping me for distribution, like Gary is talking about, you know, all these different pieces of content out a day. Now, I'm not doing it in the same way, but I am getting a good amount of volume out. Like this recording that I'm making right now is going to serve that purpose. So I'm recording this on my Galaxy. I'm going to take this transcript that Galaxy AI is going to create, even though it's oftentimes pretty bad. It's not the best. I probably eventually, although I talk about it a lot, I just haven't done it because it really doesn't matter that much. It somewhat, in a way, forces me to do more proofreading and more checking, you know, more editing, which is good because it keeps me really in the loop, which is what I really want to be. So for my process, which I call DTS method, or dictation, transcription, and summarization. So for the DTS method, it requires me to really be hands-on because it's human-centered, but it's AI amplified, so I'm having it help me with metadata, but I'm not having it generate any original content. The original content is coming from me, my stream of consciousness, like right now. And very often my stream of consciousness as right now is inspired by various different pieces of media that I experience. Like I was just now watching Gary V. Before that, I've been looking at listening really to various different YouTube offerings from Chris Do. And I can do this because I drive a lot doing gig work, going as a personal shopper and making deliveries. And so very often I'm in my car, so I make the best of it. I just do my best to learn. Oh, and I kind of got off track, but yeah, I was saying earlier, acrimonium points to poems.hypnoathletics.com, and then I have university.hypnoathletics.com, and they're all used to some extent or the other. One of my, I think hypnoathletics.net, I basically use as like an online scratch pad. But, okay, so the point being here that I am not utilizing the strategy exactly as Gary Vaynerchuk suggests, simply because of resources and just, my time restrictions. And I'm a solopreneur, and he's got a team now, although he was doing a lot on his own before. But the point is here's what he recommends. Like I said, 412 pieces of content a day under all of these different handles. And he's talking about, the internet has changed. It's about volume. And so I put out a lot of content now, especially more after I got my momentum going. When I started doing this thing called NSSRs, which was an experiment I did when I was down in Florida and driving from Florida up to back to Virginia. And I stopped along the way in the Carolinas. I was in Georgia, and NSSRs were something I started calling not so subliminal recordings, because they were an extreme version of what I call now lo-fi podcast, and also my lo-fi audiobook podcasts, in which there is background noise. Like now, this would be considered a lo-fi podcast because I don't edit background noise. I don't have, I'm not trying to stop the environment from getting involved in the recording or being present in the recording. I've recorded a lot at this cafe called Badass Coffee of Hawaii. Oh crap, what the heck was that, man? I'm dropping stuff. Oh, well, it's good I'm home. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to pull in and I'm going to I got some stuff for somebody, so I'm going to bring this to her really quick. It's 11 o'clock on the nose right now, so I'm done for the evening, at least with my driving. My goal is always to just stop at 11. So I have a schedule that I put myself on, even though I work for myself. I'm an independent contractor and a freelancer, and so I get up as early as I can, but I don't force myself to be awake unless I have to. Like this morning, I had to get up again to go to the car dealership because brand new tires that I just got on Wednesday of last week, it's now Monday. Last night, the meter, the gauge, what do you call it? An alert went off in my car, and it showed that my rear driver side tire was getting low, and I went and checked it, and there was a screw sticking out of it. So fortunately, and I just bought, they're brand new tires, just less than a week old. And so I had to set an alarm this morning at 6 o'clock so I could go be early at the dealership, because I didn't make an appointment, so I wanted to get there as early as possible. And, Hall Toyota, Virginia Beach, they patched it for free. It wasn't in a place that was, that couldn't be plugged, that is. So plugged, not patched. I got the tires. They were, when I got it, Shannon, my service advisor, told me, "Oh, you're in luck. We're doing a 3-for-1," which I don't know what the heck that's all about. Who buys 3 tires? Three. So the sale was buy 3, get 1 free. So, I don't know. Maybe I would have had to buy another tire, but I didn't. And so my point is that I don't force myself to wake up, and except for times when I have something to do like that. So I do my best to get up when I'm done sleeping. That's when I get up. When my body says you're done, then that's when I get up. So I do my best to get up as early as possible. And I'm talking about being a freelancer and independent contractor. And I drive and do various different tasks throughout the day up until usually around anywhere between 2 until 4 in the afternoon. Then I'll take a break, and sometimes I go to Badass Coffee of Hawaii, although I'm feeling like I probably need to take another break from going there. I don't know. Every time that I've gone there in the last week, people that I've met there start talking to me, and I've allowed myself to be distracted from what my objective was when I go in there. And I don't want to be rude to people, but I'm not trying to be a people pleaser either. And there have been times when I have just been like, screw it, and said, hey, look, I got to do this, and I'm pretty good at it. But it's just, I don't know, I have zero excuses. Maybe I just need to change my environment. It's just me. I mean, every problem that I have is my own responsibility and my fault. So it's just, I'm feeling weird, and some other stuff has been happening that I find strange. So, all right, but back to what, I'm talking about here. So doing gig work, independent contracting, freelancing. Oh, I got to drop this off for Ann. Where's that bag? Where did it go? I know. Oh, here it goes. All right, let me do that real quick, and then I'll come back and do this. All right, so now this hack of distribution, right? And I probably, I'm going to watch the rest of the video after I start posting this one. And you know what? I'm pretty decent at multitasking. There's some people out there, some experts who claim that you can't really multitask, and that, you're diminishing your efficiency, I guess, from one thing. But and it's possible that it very well could be so, but I also have this, I'm very neurotic about doing stuff. And so if I did everything sequentially, then it would take a lot longer. So what I'm going to be doing is that while I'm posting this recording, I'm going to be watching the rest of the recording with Gary and learning more about what he's talking about, digest that. Basically, it's there's another, I love acronyms and initials and abbreviations. So another one I have is called SAPAST, SAPAST, and it's study, adopt, practice, adapt, share, and teach. And so, and it also goes along with something that I was talking about. I mentioned Chris Doe earlier. Okay, but one of the great things now is that not only does Spreaker has a content distribution system, or content distribution center, in which I am able to, my podcast, as long as I turn it on, my podcasts get distributed to iHeart Radio, to Spotify, to GeoSavan, to Deezer, to Podcast Addict to Podchaser to Facebook to X, and where else does it go to automatically? And now that YouTube has an integration for podcasts, all I have to do is put the RSS feed into YouTube, and now my podcasts are automatically published on YouTube. And I'm learning about how they look, and what kind of images I should be using, which I'm not doing. Like, I still haven't really even gotten into the science of thumbnails, which a lot of people talk about. Like, there's all this stuff that I really just I hear about all the time, and I'm just not even practicing. But the fact of the matter is that I'm creating lots of content, sometimes 2, 3, 4, 5. I've actually even done up to like 10 podcasts, because I'm just doing stream of consciousness recording like I am now, and just done them in one day and just put them up back to back to back. Yesterday I did 2 or 3 of them, and I'm at least going to do one more after this, at least. But the great thing is, and I remember too, I'm going to put the link, because World Reading Club, I have a Google business page for it, so I'm going to put the link for that into the YouTube channel, where you can put links for the channel that I've changed to the World Reading Club YouTube, which is linked to the World Reading Club podcast on Spreaker. And so I just want everything to be backlinked to each other, so there's a flow through, and there's a consistent line that traces everything. I feel like it's just the experiment that I'm doing, but I feel like it's going to help with the searchability, and it's going to help people to find this stuff. And something that I heard Gary Vaynerchuk saying before, he talked about that, we're in the interest economy. Before it was a social media, now we're in interest media. And, he's one of the first people. Some people talk about attention economy and it being bad, but he says, no, attention is the currency. Attention is where it's at. He doesn't really mince words about that. He's like, that's what it is. He's like, it doesn't matter how you feel about it. But if you want to be successful in business, if you want to do things, if you want to get the word out there, he said, it doesn't matter how you feel. You have to operate with how things are. And that's it. I mean, he's not... So it's just very interesting. So, and everybody I feel like can participate in a certain way. And I'm doing it in a way where I'm not burning myself out. Where my medium is spoken and written word. So the more that I can get that out and get distribution without having to, do all of it manually myself, then I'm going to do that. And right now, with the podcast, they get distributed to those various different podcast channels that I mentioned previously. Oh yeah, it goes to Audible as well. And now YouTube. And YouTube, of course, is Google. And that's why I said I'm going to link the Google page. And I'm also going to put up a blog. Not all of them I put blogs for the podcast, but I do it with enough of them. And then, also I mentioned earlier that the podcast also gets published on at least 2 social media channels, Facebook and X. And then sometimes I'll publish things on LinkedIn. And, and I'm being unconventional on LinkedIn. Yesterday I saw there was a video of, there was a lady, I don't remember exactly what it was, but she was talking about something that she was doing in business and how she changed up. It was some kind of ad campaign. There was a celebrity who was selling some kind of fashion merchandise, like purses or whatever, or bags or clothes, something like that. And people were waiting in all these long lines, and then they, jumped on it and started serving like biscuits and muffins or what, I don't know, some kind of food that was there. And so people were then just coming just for the experience. And then somebody on LinkedIn mentioned, they said, she's a genius for this. And then somebody said, no, her marketing team is a genius. And then someone else commented something like, that's why when I have a business, I only want to hire people that are smarter than me. And so it's interesting how, this debate gets online, and it was correct. It's like, yeah, she's a genius, And then someone pointed out, no, her marketing team's a genius. Now, both of those are right. And then someone clarified it and said, yeah, if I'm have those resources, or if I do something like this, I would want to hire people that are smarter than me. So yeah. So one, you're a genius for hiring people that are smarter than you. So everybody's doing the right thing, because they turned a situation where all these people were waiting and maybe getting impatient and whatever was happening there, and turned it into, an upside for the business to sell more, make people more comfortable, turned the waiting into an experience. And then someone commented, how is this LinkedIn content? And then someone pointed out, it's about business. Like, isn't that what LinkedIn is for? And then I commented something like, for those that don't know that, why this content, or even are questioning any kind of content on LinkedIn, are obviously not keeping up to date with how social media of all kind and LinkedIn is moving forward. Because somebody mentioned something like, this belongs more like Facebook or TikTok, and why is this here? And they don't get it. It's the attention economy. It's the interest media. And I just posted my most popular videos are of me doing martial arts, and one of them is me doing acrobatic martial arts tricks movements to a death metal song that I did with a friend that I met at University of Miami, and he lives in California in Bakersfield. And then somebody else, my friend Ann, who she said she saw the video, and I didn't even tell her about it. So, and then somebody saw me on TikTok in a video that I didn't even make, that somebody else made of me. So it's just, interest media. But, of course, there's a lot of things that you should be mindful of. You should be doing something that's helpful and useful. Like, I'm documenting my experience and talking to people about ways that I'm doing my best to integrate certain things, and like I'm talking about right now. And also, Gary Vaynerchuk is also one of the people who planted the seed in my brain about how, LinkedIn is becoming more like Facebook. And so people, when they say things like, oh, why does this belong here? Shouldn't this be like on TikTok or Instagram? And my comment was, if that's the way you think, you're really not up on things. And I'm saying that from the perspective of a person who, follows Gary V. So it's not my original thought, but the guy is doing some things that I would like to get done. And it's a really interesting thing to be able to, for example, run my business, which is healthy living and self-defense. And when I get the attention towards people coming to me for my products and services, which once again, are healthy living and self-defense, mainly consulting, coaching, teaching, and training, right? And my healthy living and self-defense blends the disciplines that I have training in. So I'm a lifelong martial artist. I've been a fitness trainer for 30 years. I have a degree in clinical hypnosis, and I'm an ordained minister with a PhD in metaphysical sciences. So all of these things I integrate, but they all fall under what I call PITCH, or programming, influencing, training, conditioning, and hypnosis, which are all basically ways of incrementally helping people to change, to move towards the goals that they and the things they want to achieve, and basically help them to achieve their various different transformations. So also, acronyms, like I said, I use them a lot. Part of the system is PACTS, personally attuned conversational transformation sessions, because my forte is the spoken and written word. And just my own personality, just who I am, there's at least 25% of people who are going to hear me without me even trying, who are going to be influenced by the things that I say, and are going to take recommendations and be able to pull out the gold nuggets from the way that I speak. I'm doing my thing differently than a lot of people. I'm not scripting. I'm going stream of consciousness. There are some things that I've scripted, meaning I've read my books, or I've read specific things for scripts. But when I do that, you can hear the difference. And sometimes I write the scripts and follow them, or sometimes I follow an outline, but very rarely do I do that. But this is the way that I operate. And I have been looking for certain ways, like what Gary Vee is talking about, because I feel like even though I may not be doing certain other things that are what would be called the best practices for how people are going viral and doing this and that, because that's not necessarily my concern, but there are other things that I can do to get people to understand who I am, which, going back to what Chris Do talks about, and from what I understand, is what personal branding really is. And what I'm starting to cognate right now, or understand what I'm getting right now from saying that, is that personal branding really, and then blending it with what I'm understanding from Gary Vaynerchuk, is that it's not what a lot of people use it as a catchphrase, where it's just basically their marketing efforts, where they're, as Chris Do says, they're basically creating a marketing and or sales funnel. Personal branding, for me, the way that I'm operating here, and I'm interpreting what Chris Do said and borrowing from Gary Vaynerchuk, but to me, how I've adapted it is that I'm just being who I am, talking to people about things that I'm learning, sharing my journey, being myself, and just, that's it. The way that I am here, if you went to Badass Coffee of Hawaii, or to the Starbucks on General Booth, or to Knott's Coffee Company, or to Barnes & Noble at the Lynn Haven Mall, or the one in Town Center, or the one in Chesapeake, or Newport News, or Hampton Roads, or in Williamsburg, or the various different ones in South Florida, the one on A1A in Fort Lauderdale, the ones that are down in Coral Gables, or if you go to books and books, anywhere you go, you will talk to people, and they'll tell you, yeah, he's this faladoro, he's this talkative and this energetic all the time. Either that, or he's completely quiet for a little while and listening. But the way that I am speaking here is the way that I am all the time. Of course, I'm saying all the time, but not always talkative all the time. And I just am who I am, because sometimes I just don't feel like talking at all. Sometimes I walk around places completely quiet, just staring at people, mean mugging them, and kind of generally being a bully as I walk around all the place, because people get scared of the fact that I'm wearing like industrial chains. I walked into the Green Parrot the other day, and this one, the head, I think he's the head chef now, or the head of the kitchen, a guy named Ace, said, people got scared when you walked in. And then another young lady said, she's like, yeah, let them be scared. It's all right. It's just funny, but I just am what I am. Like, you're not going to go somewhere and get a different story. I just as I am. And sometimes some people will say that filters are needed, but I self-regulate sometimes, but I just do it appropriately for however I feel like it, not according to what other people are trying to prescribe. All right, but about how that relates to personal branding is that by now just doing what I'm doing, but getting it out to as many people as I possibly can, then according to the 25% that I said who are naturally going to be influenced by me, and this is something I learned as a student at the Hypnosis Motivation Institute, HMI, where I got my degree in clinical hypnosis, is that the 25 people, so 1/4 of the people that hear me or are around me are going to naturally just be influenced by me. So I don't even have to try. But what I do need is distribution. And so I have the blogs, I have the podcasts, and the podcasts are being distributed to these several different channels, and to social media and the podcast channels, and now I got it to YouTube. And so now I'm just cranking out volume so that I can get my personal brand out there, and I'm linking it to as many things as I possibly can that link to each other. So like I said, my Google business page for World Reading Club is going to be linked from my World Reading Club YouTube channel, which is already linked to the World Reading Club podcast. So whenever the World Reading Club podcast gets published now, not only does it go to Facebook and X and all those other podcast channels like Spotify, iHeart, Amazon Audible, to name some of the big ones, right? And now it also automatically publishes to YouTube. So just like this, now what am I going to publish this one on? I think that this one should go on the Hakeem Alexander one, and then, or I can put it on UniquilibriuM. Either way, they're going to be published to YouTube and those other channels as well, where I have the distribution set up. So now what I'm saying, if I'm saying anything at all, which I like when Tony Stark, played by Robert Downey Jr., said that. I forget which movie it was. But if I'm saying anything at all, what I am saying is this, that I am working on promoting my personal brand, which is basically just me as a person. And the reason why I'm doing that is so that more people know that I am a trainer, coach, and teacher of healthy living and self-defense. And the healthy living is based off of nutritional and behavioral, in the sense that, and even spiritual, in the sense that I have a degree in clinical hypnosis, so I understand the behavioral science of being a professional belief system enhancer, working within the scope of practice of vocational and avocational motivation and self-improvement, understanding that change is going to be achieved incrementally, and I'm using the hypnotic modalities of authority, of paradigm, and internal experience, and the two laws of hypnosis, repetition and association, and with the understanding of consciousness and the fundamental nature of reality being eternal, that's the metaphysics, and applying all of those things that I understand through the physical movements of dream action yoga, exposing the conditioned personality, and KappaGuerra, the only war to wage is within. So it's my forms of physio meditation, which is also one of my concepts and brands, if you will, my service marks, one of my handles. And but people really need to understand that my foundation is known as hypnoathletics, and hypnoathletics is exercising your mind towards universal harmony and spiritual wisdom through healthy living and self-defense. And what really can be pulled out of all of that is really, it all comes down to self-defense, and self-defense comes in many forms. But if I had to sum everything up, and the realization that I've come to, and I've heard things called like ikigai all the time, and it's becoming a popular term, and even my friend Robin said it to me the other day. But I was reminded when Chris Do laid it out and said, what do you love doing, what are you passionate about, what are you really good at, and what can make money, and what is needed in the world, right? So those things, and self-defense fits all of those criteria. I love it, I'm passionate about it, I'm really good at it, the world needs it, and I can make money from it. So it fits in all those criteria. And it took me a little while to figure out, really, that's the foundation of my existence. But I've just been doing it all the time. I've just never stopped. But I just got caught up chasing all these different shiny objects. Do this, do that, build this business, do that thing. When really, the business to be built is the one of healthy living and self-defense, because that fits all of those categories. It's needed. It can make money. People want it. I'm good at it, exceptionally good at it, and I love doing it. So that's the purpose of all of this, is I'm promoting the fact that I am a healthy living and self-defense coach, trainer, practitioner, consultant, right? Which also could be, in some ways, if a lot of people don't get there, like, what is that? Well, I'm a life coach, right? It's just that I don't call it that. I mean, people who go other students who graduate from the Hypnosis Motivation Institute, and even many of those who go to the University of Metaphysical Sciences, both of which are my alma maters, they end up doing things that could, for all intents and purposes, be called life coaching. Except, there's a lot more that goes into both of those programs, and then a lot of the life coaching certifications. The University of Metaphysical Sciences, for example, has over 80 courses that I took. A lot of meditations that we had to listen to, write essays on. We had to write several papers, do several projects, write a dissertation, thesis, on and on. There's so many different things. And the Hypnosis Motivation Institute was a base of 720 hours of practicums and clinical residency, but for me it was probably like 3 times that much, because there was a lot of stuff that was going on when I was not in school. Like, for example, 720 hours was our classroom time and the clinical residency, but we also had to do these case studies where we had to watch these DVDs, and at the time they were DVDs. Now that I think they're all digitized. I actually started the digitizing and editing process for a while, and I forget when that was, like 2004, 2005, but and then there were also audio recordings we had to listen to, and so we had to watch these videos and listen to these audios, and then we had this book that had like 82, it was anywhere between 82 or 88, I don't remember the number, but we had to write essays on them. So there was a lot of stuff we were doing. We're watching hours and listening to hours, watching hours of video, listening to hours of audio, and then writing essays on it. So all that takes a lot more time. And then on top of that, we had 3 hours at a minimum that we had a mentor that we were receiving hypnotherapy from. And then there were all kinds of other stuff that we were doing outside. Like, I was going to various different events of my classmates who were doing events and giving workshops and all this stuff like that. And they were coming to mine. And then we were going to all these other seminars and workshops. And I mean, it just never ends. It has never ended. It's still just ongoing. So all that to say, that there's a lot of different tools and a lot of different training that has gone onto it. But for me, this is how it turned out. I actually am a lot less formal and, I would say, like, proper or even conservative. I'm definitely not conservative like a lot of people. I'm not talking about politically conservative. I'm just talking about professionally conservative. I don't follow the same norms. I'm just not comfortable with a lot of the ways that most people operate, which is why I have so much friction, and it's so much more challenging for me to have certain kinds of success that other people are having. And although I've had it monetarily in different ways, it fluctuates, but I'm finding my stability only now, mainly because I'm not allowing myself to be pulled to and fro by a lot of things. Like, there was a lot of uncertainty, and dare I even use the term, there was a lot of stuff feeling like sometimes creeping up with imposter syndrome or FOMO, fear of missing out, or all kinds of different things that were going on. But fortunately, I've cut through all of the filth. I've basically tuned into the signal within all of the noise. And maybe I'm a late bloomer, but I'm glad that I'm blooming, and I'm glad that I've taken the journey that I have. And so it's gotten to this point now where I'm talking about this very specific thing, which is I'm listening to what these different agencies and individuals who are in the business of marketing, which is amazing to continue learning. And when you have your radar tuned into all of this stuff, you can just keep on adding more and becoming more efficient and becoming more knowledgeable. And so now the one thing that I'm applying is just, I'm continuing to be me, but now I'm learning more about how to amplify my voice, which is promoting my personal brand, which is healthy living and self-defense. And and those seem like descriptions, and I'm getting better at talking to people about the features, like what's in it for them, what's in it for you, why should you want to learn healthy living and self-defense? What is that? How does that help you out? Well, for a fact, I know, for one thing, people have more confidence and more energy. People have more confidence and more energy because their bodies become a joy to live in rather than feeling like a burden. A lot of people feel imprisoned in their body because of aches and pains and lethargy and tiredness and all of these other things. And I'm showing people how, through just very simple things that they can do, incremental changes, they can reclaim their energy, reclaim their life, reclaim their confidence, and to have a much higher level or much elevated experience of their quality of life. And it reflects on everything that they do. It influences everything that people do, like in the way that how the Shaolin monks were taught by Bodhidharma. They were taught yoga and martial arts so that it strengthened their physical bodies, and therefore they were able to reach higher states of enlightenment because they were able to tap into the higher state of consciousness when their physical bodies weren't a burden and they were stronger. In the same way, people's professional, financial, and material and physical lives and their thinking process, if they're meditating, their yoga practice, their business acumen, just their work life in general, their vocational and avocation. So it's absolutely living up to the scope of practice from that we learned at HMI as lay hypnotist, which is vocational and avocational motivation and self-improvement. And my tools happen to be martial arts, metaphysics, and clinical hypnosis, which to me are all the same thing. And that's part of what I'm developing as the Institute of Metaphysical Hypnosis. But again, look, I have all these handles, right? I've named so many different things, but they all converge on one underlying concept, which I could put as the scope of practice, which I'm using healthy living and self-defense on. Hypnoathletics is exercising your mind towards universal harmony and spiritual wisdom through healthy living and self-defense for vocational and avocational motivation and self-improvement. And that's, I mean, it's all culminating and becoming more clear as time goes along. But I'm still just doing the same thing. It's just that I'm refining and honing my message, but also now finding more and more ways to amplify it so that it's unstoppable. And that more people will know about it so that they can take advantage of it, so that they know how to find me. And this, even though a lot of this has been talking about the process of doing it, this is going to help some other people who want to figure out how to get their message out there as well. But it's also doubling up because I'm telling people what I do. Like, hey, look, I figured out I'm a healthy living and self-defense coach. I'm helping you with your vocational and avocational motivation and self-improvement. And so, my tools are martial arts and clinical hypnosis, self-defense, clinical hypnosis. There's so many different ways you can call it. And again, as you can tell, there's some refinement that needs to be made, but it's coming along quite nicely. I'm feeling confident about it. I'm feeling energetic about it. It's 11:44 in the evening. I've been going on for 48 minutes in this recording because I know that I started a little bit before 11 o'clock, and this is where I am now. And I'm going to be doing this for at least another hour, and I'm going to go to sleep, wake up, and do it all over again. And I just am not getting tired of it. And a large part of that is because of the variety of things that I'm doing, but especially because I'm using my body. Like throughout the day, I'm squatting, I'm climbing, I'm jumping, I'm stretching, I'm breathing. Like one of the first things I do when I get up in the morning is 10 long deep breaths, and then start thinking about my SMART goals, right? SMART. And so that means specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. So I'm thinking about that, and I'm thinking about what I want to do, and I'm thinking about the people I want to see, and the certain goals that I have, and the numbers that I want to hit, and all of this stuff. And I'm doing that in the morning while I'm doing the breathing exercises, while I'm getting ready throughout my day, while I'm planning, while I'm also turning on apps and looking at what am I going to start to do, where am I going to go, and also finding ways to integrate all of my movement, everything in the day. And this is why I'm able to be so efficient and get so much done, and I'm getting it done in my way and my terms, and also realizing more and more that everything's okay with that. That I don't have to approach business and promotion in the same way as anybody else does. I can do exactly what I'm doing right now. I just have to get it out there to as many people as possible. And through the what could be called attraction marketing or magnetic marketing, my audience will find me. Now, I may be misinterpreting what Gary Vaynerchuk and people like Chris Do and others are saying, that what I'm and how I'm applying it, but I'm also seeing it working. So there's a lot of stuff actually happening. There's a lot more attention. There's a lot more eyeballs that are coming towards me in various different ways from me executing these tasks in the way that I'm doing it. So I'm doing something right as far as that goes, and I'm starting to see various different things happening with book royalties and ad share revenue and the listens to my podcast, the downloads, the streams, all of this other stuff like that, the video count, and then certain things that I do and I'm testing. And so it's coming along, and I can't really ask for much more than that right now, except actually I can, and I am going to. But what I do want to say is this. I think I was gonna mention this about, and I think I might have started with talking about Gary Vaynerchuk earlier, but there's a thing that I heard years ago when I was learning marketing from these guys, Dave Wood and Dave Sharp, when somebody said, people start to become marketers of marketing to marketers of marketing who want to market marketing to marketers of marketing. And it was like this whole circular thinking, right? Like, I'm a marketer of marketing to marketers who want to market marketing to marketers of marketing. It was like this really weird thing that people just everybody's just selling a course to tell you how to sell a course, to tell you, and it was just on and on and on. However, what I'm doing and what Gary Vaynerchuk does is he actually has an agency and he markets for other people, but he also markets his own business and sells his own products. And so what I'm doing is, even though I'm talking about marketing to possibly other people who want to learn marketing, and I'm just doing it my own way, I'm not really following anybody's convention. And even though, as I'm saying, I'm talking about Gary Vee and Chris Do and Alex Hormozy and all these other people I watch, Cody Sanchez, man, there's so many people. I mean, I fluctuate and go through all of this stuff up and down. Dan Kennedy, Russell Brunson, regardless of what you might think of some of these people and what they're doing or what they have done, and Tony Robbins, but I'm learning from everywhere that I can. And what I'm doing is, I'm not marketing. I'm not marketing courses to people. I'm just talking about it. So I'm not selling a course about how to market and how to do this and that. No, it's just embedded in the talk that I'm doing. What I'm really promoting is that I'm a healthy living and self-defense practitioner and a healthy living and self-defense coach. I'm a healthy living and self-defense coach to help you with your vocational and avocational motivation and self-improvement. I'm a professional belief system enhancer. And that's it. I mean, and I'm using martial arts, which is the self-defense part, right? Healthy living, which falls into those categories of spirituality and behavioral science, the science of behavioral change, incremental behavioral change. So, all right, well, that's it. I think really one of the points that I wanted to get out there is I don't particularly like it when there are marketers of marketing who market marketing to marketers who want to market marketing to marketers of marketing. Like, I just don't really like that. That's always just seemed weird, because I would always think to myself, okay, but when, like, what is happening here? You're selling me a course on how to make a course to teach other people how to make a course so they can make a course to teach people how to make it. Like, it just didn't make any sense. But when instead you can learn and stay up to date on how marketing and media is changing and apply to the best of your ability or to the best of your comfort or whatever, however you can do it, to get the word out about what it is that you do. And what I do is healthy living and self-defense, vocational and avocational motivation and self-improvement. So That's it. Oh, and one place you can go, which I'm going to build up more for that, is KappaGuerra.com. It's all one word, KappaGuerra.com. I stylize it with a capital K and a capital G. It's all one word, KappaGuerra. KappaGuerra, the only war to wage is within. That comes from the Kappa being the 10th letter of the Greek alphabet, and the divination tool known as numerology uses the commutative law of addition, meaning that you just add numbers in any order. But here we have Kappa being the 10th letter of the Greek alphabet, so 10 is a 1 and a 0, and that 1 plus 0 equals 1, and guerra being the word for war in various different Romantic languages or Roman languages, Roman-based languages or Roman-derived languages, means war. So one and war. So I interpret that for myself as being the only war to wage is within, which goes along with my dream action yoga, exposing the conditioned personality. And it doesn't mean that you necessarily have to change the conditioned personality, but when you expose it, when you bring it from the unconscious, subconscious to the conscious, then you can either leave it be or change it as you see fit. And so there's so much, it's multi-layered, but what it all comes down to is motivation and self-improvement, using healthy living and self-defense, martial arts. That's it. And I'm really looking at how martial arts, and really for me it's capoeira-based movements. And so many things that come from that. It's amazing how so many things can actually, how one thing can be so many things at the same time. There's so many facets, there's so many characteristics in capoeira itself that it's been a lifelong passion of mine and is influencing and directing and guiding so many things that I do. Well, that's it. It's 56 minutes now, almost 57. So we're going to get this going, and I'm going to check out the rest of that Gary Vaynerchuk video. I am Hakeem Ali Bocas Alexander.